All right, let's get this script sounding a little more like it came from a person, not a robot. We'll keep everything, every word, every marker, just make it flow better, you know? So the CEO, right? He dumped $3.6 million worth of stock. And get this, just 11 days later, his whole bank went belly up. And I'm gonna tell you what the news basically ignored. Seriously, for years now, I've been diving deep into these big stories, pulling back the curtain on the secret financial stuff that really runs things. Today, we're breaking down the absolutely wild collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, and this sale that just screams, I knew this was coming. Stick with me in this video, and you'll see exactly how a CEO pocketed millions right before his company cratered, why regulators are catching all sorts of heat, and what this whole mess could mean for your wallet. March 10th, 2023. Yeah, that's a date you'll see in the history books now. Silicon Valley Bank, this huge player in tech financing, got straight up seized by the folks in charge. Its failure. It sent massive tremors through the whole global economy, leaving account holders in a panic and investors holding the bag with huge losses. But check this out. Just 11 days before all that chaos, on February 27th, SVB's own CEO, Greg Becker, sold off $3.6 million in stock. A move that, looking back now, feels a lot less like a regular stock sell-off and more like a planned getaway. And this wasn't just any bank, mind you. Silicon Valley Bank was like the central hub for startups, for venture capital money, for a whole generation of game changers. So its failure wasn't just some company going broke. It was a jolt that threatened to shake up the entire financial system. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, you know, the FDIC, they had to jump in, moving fast to protect the folks with insured accounts. Source, but for so many others, especially those with money above the insured limits, the damage was already done and dusted. The timing of Becker's sale, moving a massive chunk of his personal fortune out the door just days before everything fell apart, immediately sparked some huge, explosive questions. How could the CEO unload millions in stock so close to a total disaster without facing serious, immediate heat? The public's reaction? It was absolutely deafening. Source, millions of dollars just evaporated for customers, while the guy in charge seemed to have this incredibly convenient exit plan. This story isn't just about one guy or one bank, okay? It's about whether our financial system is actually on the level, and if the rules actually apply to the people running the show. The Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, they did eventually file charges. They went after the former CEO of SVB Financial Group and the ex-CFO for securities fraud and other alleged misdeeds related to the bank's collapse. Source, but the big, nagging question is still this. Why no immediate criminal charges specifically for that stock sale itself? These kinds of situations get legally complicated real fast. Becker's sale, from what we've heard, was actually part of a pre-planned trading setup, a thing called a 10b5-1 plan, which he put in place back in January. Source, the idea behind these plans is to protect execs from insider trading claims by having predetermined schedules for selling stock. But the fact that this sale happened so close to the bank's final moments has a lot of people questioning if it's really following the spirit of those rules, even if it technically followed the letter. Is a plan you set up ahead of time really a get-out-of-jail-free card when the company's foundation is literally crumbling? Most people out there certainly don't think so. The whole vibe is one of being betrayed, the boss cashing out while his customers and employees are facing ruin. This is exactly the kind of disconnect that totally destroys people's faith in banks and the folks who lead them. The stakes here are astronomically high, not just for the thousands of individuals and businesses who lost cash, but for the stability of the entire financial world. If top executives can apparently just walk away from failing companies with millions in their pockets, what's the real incentive for them to be responsible? The fallout from SVB tanking actually pushed lawmakers to act. A bill was introduced in the House of Representatives, and its goal was to tweak the Federal Deposit Insurance Act. Source, what's it supposed to do? Well, it's designed to allow for the clawback of certain payments made to executives from failed banks. This is a pretty direct reaction to all the public anger, an effort to make sure that the people at the very top can't profit from or dodge responsibility for massive failures anymore. That $3.6 million sale Greg Becker made, it's way more than just a financial trade. It's become a symbol. A symbol of what feels like untouchability, of a system that sometimes appears to look out for its own, and of the massive gap between how regular folks experience things and how people at the very peak of corporate power do. We're gonna dig into how that 10b5-1 plan actually worked, what the SEC is doing, and the ongoing argument about holding executives accountable when financial disaster strikes. The SVB story is a harsh wake-up call. It reminds us that behind every set of numbers, there are real people, real consequences, and often some really uncomfortable questions about who is truly following the playbook. So the whole Silicon Valley Bank mess? Yeah, that really shook up the financial world, no doubt. But get this, even as the bank was basically on life support, its main guy, Greg Becker, went ahead and did something pretty interesting. He sold off $3.6 million worth of the company's stock. This was on February 27, 2023, and it happened less than 2 weeks before the feds had to step in and take over the whole operation. Talk about raising some eyebrows, right? It definitely got people talking and speculating like crazy. Now, to really get what's going on, we gotta look a bit deeper than just that immediate sale. Becker's stock dump wasn't some spur-of-the-moment thing he decided to do when things got dicey. Nope, it was actually part of a trading plan he'd already set up. Think of it like a pre-approved way for execs to trade stock without looking like they're doing it based on secret info. This kind of plan is called a 10b5-1 plan, and Becker put his in place way back on January 26, 2023. So what exactly is a 10b5-1 plan, you ask? Basically, the Securities and Exchange Commission created these rules so that people inside a company who have access to sensitive info can still buy or sell stock legally. The super important part is that the plan has to be set up before the executive has any kind of crucial, non-public information. Once that plan is good to go, they can just follow the schedule they laid out, even if they later learn some juicy inside details. It's like a legal shield, making sure those trades don't look like illegal insider trading. The timing here is everything, seriously. Becker's 10b5-1 plan got the green light on January 26th. Then, the actual stock sale went down on February 27th. This sequence is key because it fits right in with what the 10b5-1 rules require. The plan was established before all the really intense bank runs and the eventual collapse. You know that whole run on the bank thing where everyone's pulling their money out fast? That really picked up steam in the days right before SVB went under. Confidence just evaporated, and market reactions just made it worse. Later on, the Securities and Exchange Commission ended up charging the former CEO of SVB Financial Group and the ex-CFO with securities fraud and other stuff related to the bank going down. Source: SEC. But when it comes to Becker and his stock sale, proving he committed a crime would mean showing that the 10b5-1 plan wasn't legit from the start, or that he did have key, secret info when he set it up on January 26th. Setting up the 10b5-1 plan on January 26th, and then making the sale on February 27th, gave Becker a solid legal defense against immediate claims that he was trading on insider info for that specific stock sale. That plan was actually created to allow for sales like that, protecting the executive from accusations that they were using secret knowledge about the bank's bad situation to cash out. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC, had to jump in to protect the folks who had their money insured at Silicon Valley Bank. Source: FDIC. That was a necessary move to calm things down and stop the problem from spreading. At the same time, lawmakers started looking at ways to deal with executive pay at banks that failed. A bill even got introduced in Congress that would change the Federal Deposit Insurance Act, specifically to allow for taking back certain compensation from the executives of failed insured banks. Source: Congress. Gov. This shows that the government was looking at accountability more broadly, even if nailing someone for insider trading on the stock sale itself turned out to be complicated. So yeah, that $3.6 million sale happening right before SVB imploded. It looked pretty sketchy, no question. But having that pre-approved 10b5-1 trading plan in place provided a pretty strong legal shield against immediate insider trading accusations for that particular transaction. Any real investigations or charges would probably need to focus on proving that plan was fake or used improperly, or on other actions that happened outside of just that stock sale. So with SVB going belly up, this big question pops up. How in the world are regulators supposed to catch execs trading on inside info when they're technically staying inside the lines of the law? Get this, the former CEO, Greg Becker, he ditched $3.6 million worth of stock. And guess when? Less than 2 weeks before the suits swooped in and shut down Silicon Valley Bank. Source, Reuters, March 11, 2023. But here's the kicker, this whole sale. It was done using a pre-planned trading setup, what they call a 10b5-1 plan, and he put that in place way back on January 26th. Source, Bloomberg, March 10, 2023. Now these 10b5-1 plans, they're basically designed to give these executives a get-out-of-jail-free card when it comes to insider trading accusations. They let the folks in the know buy or sell company stock according to a preset schedule or formula. So even if they suddenly stumble upon some juicy, not yet public info, they can still make their trades. The main defense here. It's all about proving they didn't have criminal intent when they first set up the plan and when the trades actually went down. Trying to prove criminal intent in these situations. It's a real bear, honestly. The SEC, they've slapped charges of securities fraud on Becker and the former CFO. Source, SEC Press Release 2023-172. But showing that Becker knew the bank was tanking when he signed off on the plan, and that he specifically aimed to cash in on that impending disaster. That's a super high legal hurdle to clear. The plan itself, on paper anyway, looks like it was just about diversifying his assets or needing some cash, not about gaming the system with secret info. And that right there is a pretty massive blind spot for regulators. The SEC doesn't really have its hands on the wheel when it comes to these 10b5-1 plans. Sure, the SEC did roll out some new rules late in 2022, making them disclose more and adding waiting periods to these plans. But the actual sign-off process, it doesn't require regulators to dig into the specifics of the situation, or when exactly the plan was put in place compared to how the company was actually doing financially. Folks like the SEC and the FDIC, they're mostly playing defense. They can jump in hard after something goes wrong or it's crystal clear that manipulation happened. Source, FDIC News Release 2023-16. But trying to step in before the fact or stop a sale based on a trading plan that looks fishy but is technically legal, that's a seriously tangled legal mess. The whole system for regulation just can't seem to keep up with all these fancy financial games people are playing. There's this awkward space between what's totally legal and what just feels, well, a little bit wrong. The law demands solid proof of manipulative intent and a 10b5-1 plan. It's a pretty solid shield against those kinds of accusations. It leaves regulators scrambling to sort through tons of financial data and legal jargon way after the damage is already done. And to make things even more complicated, you've got legislative attempts, like proposed bills to take back bonuses from execs at failed companies. Source, House Bill 1026, 118th Congress. These try to fix what happens after, but they don't necessarily close up the loopholes that let certain actions happen in the first place. So, the whole Silicon Valley Bank thing? Yeah, it wasn't just some boring financial news. It was a real gut punch to what people trust. Now the former CEO cashing out $3.6 million in stock back on February 27th. Technically, yeah, it was on the books. It was part of this 10b5-1 plan they'd set up weeks before, which is a whole thing. Source, Reuters, Bloomberg. But the timing, man, that pretty much torpedoed any confidence people had left. And it makes you wonder, right? Like what's going on with corporate ethics these days, and are our rules even good enough? It really creates this gnarly feeling that the folks in charge can just bail themselves out, while regular folks get stuck holding the bag when the whole system blows up. The FDIC jumped in to cover the depositors, which is good and all, but seeing that insider selling right before everything went south. It just sticks with you, Source, FDIC. Fast forward a bit, and the Securities and Exchange Commission comes out and charges the former CEO and the CFO with securities fraud because of this whole collapse mess. Source, SEC. It really just screams that we need some serious changes. We've got to tighten up the rules around these 10b5-1 plans, no doubt. Maybe make those blackout periods after you set them up a lot longer. There's actually talk in Congress about new laws to get money back from execs at these failed companies. Source, Congress, Gov. It's not just about whether something is legal, you know. It's about whether it's fair and if we're gonna keep people believing in the whole financial system. It feels like we need way more eyes on this stuff, and a real promise that accountability goes all the way to the top. What do you think about the whole SVB situation and whether we need new rules? Drop your 2 cents in the comments down below.